Welcome to News at 10 with me, Brendan Lepol. Now, the government still has fiscal space, although limited, to fund economic stimulus packages to continue to help the people. Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin said the country's economic management, as certified by international rating agencies, is still in good shape. He said the government has proven through 8 economic stimulus packages that it does not hesitate to spend money to help the people and help business sustainability. Fitch Solution, Country Risk and Industry Research recently claimed that the government would not be able to fund the current stimulus package or other packages in the future due to various constraints facing the country at the moment. However, according to the Premier, this claim is untrue. Tan Sri Muhyiddin said the government's deficit was expected to exceed the 6% projection this year, taking into account the impact of the latest Movement Control Order (MCO) and the enhanced MCO in Selangor. He also revealed that an additional special Perhatian Grant (GPK 5.0) will also be introduced to ensure business sustainability, especially among small and medium enterprises. Tan Sri Muhyiddin said the government has so far channeled 6.1 billion ringgit to the SME sector through GKP 1.0, GKP 2.0, GKP 3.0 and GKP 4.0 and additional GKP. And for the COVID updates, Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah said new COVID-19 cases in Malaysia hit yet another all-time high of 15,902 today, the second consecutive day of infections breaching the 15,000 mark. Now, this brings the cumulative total for positive cases to 996,393 since the pandemic broke out early last year. Yesterday, Malaysia recorded 15,573 cases with 144 deaths and 30 new clusters. In a Twitter post, Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham said Selangor again topped the list with 7,351 cases, followed by Kuala Lumpur with 2,406 cases. The LDG added that 184 deaths were also reported today, while there are still 950 patients in intensive care units, with 468 requiring ventilator support. On another note, a total of 16,487,158 doses have been administered under the National COVID-19 Immunisation Programme (PICK). Health Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Adam Baber said that as at 11:59 p.m. last night, 5,264,760 individuals, or 16.1% of the country's population, have received the full 2 doses of COVID-19 vaccine. He also said a total of 34.4%, or 11,222,398 individuals have received their first jab. On the daily vaccination rate, Datuk Seri Dr. Adam said 462,242 doses were administered yesterday, involving 301,536 individuals getting their first jab and 160,706 their second. The Selayang Hospital will be turned into a full COVID-19 hospital with the capability of providing up to 450 beds for COVID-19 care. As one of the strategies to mitigate the surge in COVID-19 cases in the Klang Valley, Health Deputy Director General Dr. Chong Chi Kiong said the non-COVID-19 patients at Selayang Hospital will be decanted to private hospitals in the Klang Valley to increase bed capacity for COVID-19 patients in categories 3, 4 and 5. Category 3 refers to cases with pneumonia but not requiring oxygen. Category 4 to those with pneumonia requiring oxygen, while those in Category 5 require ventilator support. In a statement today, Dr. Chong said Selayang Hospital will be the 4th hospital in the Klang Valley to be turned into a full COVID-19 hospital. The Sungai Buloh Hospital, Ampang Hospital and the Tengku Ampuan Rahimah Hospital in Klang have been turned into full COVID-19 hospitals. Perak needs sufficient COVID-19 vaccine supply in order to implement the walk-in vaccination initiative in the state. Menteri Besar Datuk Sarani Mohamad said this as the state government already has the required facilities and adequate manpower to carry out the initiative. So far, Perak has received 452,610 of the 688,760 doses stipulated, and until 21st July, a total of 600,627, or 32% of the state's residents had received the first dose, while 311,793, or 10.8%, had completed both doses of their vaccination.
Jadi, jika vaksin yang datang itu mencukupi, maka kita juga boleh buat seperti mana yang Selangor buat. Kerana memang cita-cita kita nak memberi vaksin kepada seramai mungkin rakyat negeri Perak dan secepat mungkin.
Dato' Sarani was met after visiting the COVID-19 vaccination outreach mobile trailer program for Batang Padang district at Dewan Semai Bakti Felda Besut 1, Sungai, where 2 Cup Prey motorsports trailers were converted into a mobile vaccination centre for the convenience of residents in Felda Gunung Besut 1 to 6 in the 3-day vaccination program which began since Thursday.
Bagi macam kami ni pedalaman, banyak orang-orang yang kadang-kadang ada sedikit perasaan curiga dengan cucuk ni, tetapi alhamdulillah bila mari ke sini nampaknya semua dia orang berani lah.
Kalau boleh kita jangan berhentikan di sini. Kita kalau boleh teruskan lagi sehingga selesai benda ni.
Dengan saya amat bagus. Dan kalau boleh kita tambah lagi lah masa. Diteruskan lagi supaya benda ni semua dapat.
The COVID-19 vaccination outreach mobile trailer program organised by the Capri Malaysia Fan Club and Safe Aim Mutual Sundiran Berhad was among the efforts to help Perak move into the third phase of the movement control under the National Recovery Plan by fulfilling one of the threshold values, namely to achieve 40% of vaccination rate. For the first time in 2021, the Dewan Rakyat convenes on 26 July in a special meeting called during the ongoing emergency declared to curb the COVID-19 pandemic that has seen almost 1 million cases in the country. Now, the Dewan Rakyat will sit for 5 days from the 26th to the 29th of July and on the 2nd of August. The House will see members of Parliament hear government statements on the emergency and measures to fight the pandemic, as well as ministers addressing issues raised by the MPs. The Dewan Negara will sit for 3 days from the 3rd to the 5th of August. This special meeting of the third session of the 14th Parliament varies from the normal meeting because there is no official opening by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, debate on bills and oral question and answer session. According to the order paper uploaded in the Parliament official portal, Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin Yassin will brief on the National Recovery Plan (NPP), a strategy to exit the COVID-19 crisis, while Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Defence Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob will brief on the proclamation of the emergency. Health Minister Datuk Sri Adham Baba, meanwhile, will explain Malaysia's action plan to tackle the pandemic, followed by Khairi Jamaluddin, who is the coordinating minister for the National COVID-19 Immunisation Programme on the vaccination programme, and Finance Minister Tengku Datuk Sri Zafrul Tengku Abdul Aziz on the economic aid packages. A total of 4 proposed papers have been approved during the 78th National Council meeting for local government, which was held on 13 July. The Housing and Local Government Ministry hopes that they will be accepted by the state government and local authorities to improve the quality of service delivery at the local level. The ministry in a statement said one of the proposed papers was on the implementation of guidelines for slope management, while another was on the guidelines for sanitation and disinfection work at public facilities and premises in local areas. Also approved during the meeting were the proposed amendments to the Uniform Building Bylaws 1984 and the implementation of guidelines for centralized labour quarters management. The approval was given to the guidelines so that they can be made as reference documents for all existing local authorities. The meeting, chaired by Senior Works Minister Datuk Sri Fadila Yusof, was held to coordinate local government policies between the federal government and state governments. Now, Malaysia and Indonesia have agreed to hold an official-level technical working group meeting to finalize the Memorandum of Understanding (MOU) on the recruitment and protection of Indonesian domestic workers in Malaysia. Human Resources Ministry said this shows the government's commitment and concern to the urgent needs of the community so that the issue of maids can be addressed immediately. In a statement, the ministry said the agreement was reached at the end of a discussion between both countries that was held virtually yesterday. Among the issues discussed was on the one-channel system, one maid, one task concept, domestic workers' salaries, as well as matters pertaining to the welfare of Indonesian migrant workers in the country. According to the ministry, emphasis was given on the one-channel system so as to ensure more systematic and transparent recruitment of Indonesian domestic workers, especially in terms of salaries and health examinations. Malaysia and Indonesia have basically agreed to integrate the existing systems in both countries to implement the one-channel system. Malaysia also submitted a counter-proposal on the one-maid, one-task concept to take into account the number of households for one Indonesian domestic worker. Coming right up, high-tech drones to boost border patrol, enhance security. Stay with us. The Royal Malaysia Police (PDRM) will receive 16 high-powered drones to help boost the level of security at the national border, especially in areas which have not been fenced up. Deputy Inspector General of Police Datuk Seri Mazlan Lazim said the drones approved by the government under the 12th Malaysia Plan 12MP would come under the control of the Air Operation Force (PGU). Datuk Seri Mazlan said a total of 48 million ringgit had been allocated by the government through 12MP Supplementary Plan 1 for the tender process by Home Ministry KDN to procure the drones.
Kita berharap dengan adanya drone ni boleh kita pantau. Sebab drone yang kita akan beli ni adalah drone yang berkuasa tinggi lah, yang mana dia boleh berada di udara lebih pada 4 jam. Lebih pada 4 jam. Jadi kita berharap dengan drone yang ada ini dapat membantu kita di kawasan yang tidak berpagar tu untuk kita lihat aktiviti yang mana akan dijangka mereka mengikut jalan tikus kan yang ada, dan kita berharap dengan adanya drone ini dapat bantu kita dalam buat kawalan di kawasan sepadan ni.
He also said smugglers are using rat trails in the 44.55 kilometre of border areas which have not been fenced up to dupe the authorities. In addition, Datuk Seri Mazlan said PDRM would receive 175 four-wheel drive vehicles soon to boost the level of its operation nationwide. In the meantime, he said intelligence personnel assigned to border areas would be equipped with 1,000 inner bulletproof vests for better protection. He said the government had approved 5 million ringgit for the vests, and he directed the intelligence personnel to continue upgrading their level of operation in the border areas to obtain important information. A total of 5,527 Macau scam cases involving over 327 million ringgit in losses have been recorded since 2019 until June this year. Bukit Aman Commercial Crimes Investigation Department (CCID) Director Datuk Muhammad Kamaruddin Madin said, based on the analysis made, those aged 51 and above are mostly likely being targeted by scammers as they are less exposed to information on the latest cases and developments. Datuk Muhammad Kamaruddin explained that the Macau scam syndicates have targeted 5,535 victims since 2019, and majority of them were those aged 51 and above, with 1,621 individuals. He added that this group of people is also more financially stable and have savings for their retirement, thus increasing the risk of them being targeted by the syndicates. In view of this, Datuk Muhammad Kamaruddin said family members should help each other by relaying information on scams and the modus operandi of the syndicates. He noted that relatives, especially children with elderly parents, should ensure that their parents are aware of tactics used by scammers. Now, the police have opened an investigation paper on Dewan Rakyat Deputy Speaker Dato' Muhammad Rashid Hasnon's alleged violation of the SOP under the National Recovery Plan (PPN) at a farm in Rengit near Batu Pahat recently. Johor Police Chief Dato' Ayuban Maidin Pichai said the Batu Pahat MP will be called in to give his statement, along with two other women believed to be his wife and daughter, who were seen in pictures taken at the location, which have since gone viral. Dato' Ayuban says they will be called to give their statements under Regulation 18, Subsection 1 of the Prevention and Control of Infectious Diseases Regulation 2021.
Tapi dalam kes-kes tertentu, tuan-tuan, bukan melibatkan VVIP saja, tapi yang diviralkan dalam sosial media, kita perlu menjalankan siasatan. Contohnya dalam yang terbaru ni, yang ada satu lagi VVIP kita juga, yang kata dia ada makan, majlis makan kan. Itu diviralkan, jadi kita kena sahkan dulu. Betulkah gambar tu gambar baru? Adakah gambar tu gambar diedit? Bila gambar tu diambil? Itu yang kita terpaksa buka kertas siasatan.
On an early investigation over a video clip of a group of people having durians at an orchard in Batu Pahat, also involving Dato' Muhammad Rashid, Dato' Ayuban said investigation papers on that case have been forwarded to the Attorney General's office on 14 July. A senior citizen with the title Dato was seriously injured after being attacked by a group of men at his house in Taman Alba, Macam Bubo in Bukit Mentajam last night. Seberang Perai Tengah District Police Chief ACP Shafi Abdul Samad said police received a report at 9:15 p.m. that the 17-year-old, or rather 70-year-old man was attacked with sharp weapons. In a statement today, ACP Shafi said the victim, who suffered serious injuries on several parts of his body, was sent to the Bukit Mentajam hospital for treatment, adding he is reported to be in a stable condition. ACP Shafi said police were on the hunt for 4 men involved in the attack, and the case is being investigated under Section 326 of the Penal Code. He urged those who witnessed the incident or have information to contact the nearest police station. Meanwhile, Pulau Pinang Deputy Chief Minister 2, Dr. P. Ramasamy named the victim as Penang Hindu Endowment Board Executive Director Dato' M. Ramachandran. He said Dato' Ramachandran was attacked by 4 men at about 7 p.m. yesterday, just after alighting from his car. A member of the People's Volunteer Corps, Rela, has been remanded for 7 days to help in investigation into the murder of the Taman Raya Rukun Tetangga Committee Deputy Chairman in Wakaf Tapai Marang, Terengganu yesterday. The remand order against the 56-year-old man was issued by Magistrate Engku Nurul Ain Engku Muda. The investigation is carried out under Section 302 of the Penal Code. In the 2 p.m. incident yesterday, Fong Sui Fuan, 65, died on the spot, and his nephew, Teo Hok Beng, 45, was seriously injured in the chest after being shot by a man using a shotgun. Preliminary investigation by the police revealed that the suspect fired a shotgun believed belonging to the People's Volunteer Corps twice at the direction of the 2 victims. He then escaped in a 4-wheel drive vehicle but was apprehended by police at an area near the Durian Metangau farm, Dungun, around 4:20 p.m. and the weapon used to shoot both victims was seized. Yet to come, 10 killed, hundreds other injured in West Bank clashes. There are more in our foreign segment. A Palestinian teenager has died today after being shot during clashes with Israeli soldiers at a protest over illegal settlements in the occupied West Bank. Palestinian authorities said 17-year-old Muhammad Munir al-Tamimi, who suffered gunshot wounds, died later in the hospital a day after the violence in the flashpoint Palestinian village of Beita. The Red Crescent said 320 Palestinians were injured in the clashes, including 21 by live fire, 68 by rubber-tipped bullets and many others by tear gas. Hundreds of Palestinians had gathered in the afternoon in the village of Berita, a hotspot in recent months, to protest against the wildcat settlement of Aviata, located nearby. The Israeli army said its soldiers had responded with riot dispersal means after Palestinians hurled rocks at them. Berita has been the scene of frequent unrest since May, when dozens of Israeli families arrived and began building the settlement on a hilltop near Nablus in defiance of Israeli and international law. After weeks of clashes and tensions, the government of nationalist Israeli Prime Minister Naftali Bennett struck a deal with the settlers that saw them leave the Aviata outpost. The settlers left behind the rudimentary homes they built until the Israeli Defense Ministry determines whether the land can be considered state territory. All Jewish settlements in the West Bank are regarded as illegal by most of the international community. Thousands of anti-lockdown protesters gathered in Australia's two largest cities today, with several arrested in Sydney after violent clashes with the police. A group charged mounted officers while throwing pot plants and bottles as opponents of Sydney's month-long stay-at-home orders took to the streets. Police in Sydney said they had launched a high-visibility policing operation in response to the protests. Organisers had dubbed the protest a freedom rally and publicised it on social media pages frequently used to spread vaccine disinformation and conspiracy theories. Helicopters buzzed the streets above Sydney, a city of 5 million people that is struggling to contain an outbreak of the Delta variant. Similar gatherings were planned in other urban centres. In Melbourne, local media said thousands of protesters had thronged the streets after gathering outside the state parliament in the early afternoon. Maskless demonstrators flouted rules on non-essential travel and public gatherings a day after authorities suggested restrictions could remain in place until October. The state of New South Wales, of which Sydney is the capital, reported 163 new cases Saturday for a total of nearly 2,000 infections in the current outbreak. There is growing anger at the restrictions, which are often only partially observed, and the Conservative government's failure to provide adequate vaccine supplies. For the record, only 11% of the population is fully vaccinated. G20 Environment and Energy Ministers announced on Friday an agreement that reaffirms commitment to the 2015 Paris Agreement, although they failed to agree to wording on global warming caps. Following 2 days of environment and climate talks in Naples, Italy's Ecological Transition Minister Roberto Cingolani said negotiations were particularly complex, but expressed satisfaction with the result.
Però io trovo che sia un risultato assolutamente importante il fatto che abbiamo portato un comunicato all'unanimità del G20 per la prima volta, mettendo clima ed energia insieme, che, perdonatemi, non è mai successo.
However, 2 articles out of 60 were struck from the document as they could not be agreed upon, and those will now be taken up by G20 heads of state for decision-making. Cingolani said one involved the wording of limitations on global warming increases to 1.5 to 2%, as set by the 2015 Paris Agreement adopted by nearly 200 countries. The Paris Agreement calls to collectively cap warming at well below 2 degrees Celsius and 1.5 degrees if possible. The Naples gathering came 2 weeks after the G20 meeting of finance ministers in Venice, in which the final statement cited carbon pricing as a possible tool to fight global warming. And in sports, strong start for Chinese contingent as shooter grabs first Olympic gold. Stay with us. High school Chinese shooter Yang Qian claimed the first goal of the Tokyo Games today, keeping her cool while Russian Anastasia Galashina lost hers in a dramatic finale. Galashina had looked poised to claim gold heading into the last shot, but stumbled with 8.9 on the final effort to allow Yang to seal victory. Young looked the picture of serenity as she waited with eyes closed between shots, but she still had to overcome nerves to close out the win with an Olympic record score of 251.8. Kalashina took silver on 251.1 ahead of bronze medalist Nina Christen of Switzerland on 230.6. Kalashina led for most of the final and stood on the brink of glory until she fluffed the lines with her final shot. The first medal ceremony of the Games saw Young presented with her gold by International Olympic Committee President Thomas Bach. Young draped the medal around her own neck after being handed the gold on a tray offered by Bach, in keeping with COVID-19 protocols in place at the Games. National men's doubles shuttler Aaron Chia showed nerves of steel to stunt world number 7 Choi Sol-gyu Seo Seong-jae of South Korea 24-22, 21-15 at the Musashino Forest Sports Plaza today. Now the world number 9 Malaysians needed 43 minutes to tame the South Koreans in their Group D match to boost their chances of advancing to the knockout stage. The 2019 SEA Games champions had to dig deep into their reserves in a tightly contested first game, which saw both pairs fight neck and neck until the score was tied at 20-20. The Malaysians thankfully kept their cool to win at 24-22. The battle was just as intense at the start of the second game before Aaron Woo-yik managed to find an extra gear to romp to a 21-15 win, thanks partly to mistakes on the part of the South Koreans. The Malaysians have now beaten the South Koreans 3 times in 5 meetings. Earlier in another Group D match, world number 2 Muhammad Ahsan Hendra Setiawan of Indonesia needed just 25 minutes to cruise past Canada's Jason Ho, Shu Neil Yakura 21-12, 21-11. Aaron Woo-yik faced a daunting task as they will be up against the Indonesians on Monday before concluding their group fixture against the Canadians on Tuesday. Only the top 2 pairs from each group will advance to the quarterfinals. And earlier today, national women's doubles pair Chow Mei Kwan, Lee Ming Yen got their Tokyo Olympics campaign off to a rocky start after losing their opening Group A match against Gracia Poli, Apriyani Rahayu of Indonesia. The Indonesian pair defeated Mei Kwan, Ming Yen 21-14, 21-17 in 45 minutes at the Musashino Forest Sports Plaza. Both pairs fought neck and neck at the start of the first game before Gracia Apriyani took a slim 11-10 lead at the interval. Mei Kwan, Ming Yen failed to replicate that form as they quickly lost the momentum after the match resumed and the Indonesian pair took the first game 21-14. In the second game, Mei Kwan, Mei Yen again showed great fighting spirit initially and even managed to tie the score at 13-all before the Indonesians stormed away for a commanding 20-15 lead before wrapping up the second game for a 21-17 win. Today's loss means Mei Kwan, Ming Yen have no choice but to go for a win against hot favourites and top seeds Yuki Fukushima, Sayaka Hirota of Japan tomorrow, while Gracia Apriyani will face Great Britain's Chloe Birch, Lauren Smith next. With that, we wrap up news at 10. Headlining tonight's bulletin, fiscal space available to fund more stimulus package. Tune in to updates at noon, coming up at 12:30 afternoon tomorrow. Till then, I'm Brendan LePaul. Stay safe and good night.